It's a wonderful day in the homiehood, a wonderful day for a homie. Won't you be my homie to Taro? Thank goodness it's Friday and we got a lot of news to get through. I'm going to try to take it a bit slower, but also a bit quicker, if you know what I mean. I don't even know what I mean, but I'm going to try it. Um, so the news coming out of Turkey and Syria is obviously really sad. The earthquake has now claimed the lives of 20,000, over 20,000 people, which is horrifyingly sad. There's more people who have died from this earthquake than who have passed away from the Fukushima earthquake and tsunami. Um, but on a positive note, we are hearing some kind of nice stories about people being rescued out of the rubble. So it is kind of important because I mean this story is really heavy, but it's nice to have some relief and have some feel good stories as a result as well. So you can see in this picture this person here being pulled out of the rubble, and his mother is there as well. So you can see, I'm basically on the verge of tears just like looking at this picture. So there are some really great stories, like, amazing stories. A teenager who drank his own urine to slake his thirst, and a 4-year-old boy who, when they were getting him out of the rubble, they gave him a jelly bean to calm him down. As rescue crews were pulling him out, they were instructing people not to cheer or clap because they didn't want to make too much sound and scare the boy. So it's really great. There's been a lot of aid, and the German team apparently has done a lot. People are working around the clock. Some people saying they haven't slept for even like 4 days, just because they're so focused on helping people. And it does have a link down here of ways that you can help if you feel inclined. White Helmets is a group, I think, which was originally out of Syria, and all of these other amazing organizations. I think it's good to do your due diligence and make sure that you can donate ethically. Canada has not sent a rescue team. I guess they have sent $10 million for the earthquake relief. And I think they have maybe only sent a single rescue team. A private group of volunteers from British Columbia will be the only Canadian search and rescue team in the nation's earthquake zone. So this is, I guess, something that they have talked about with the Turkish consulates, and they said that there was a bit of a concern that, similar to the earthquake in Haiti, that they might send too much help and it might overwhelm the amount of people on the ground. And would essentially clog up the systems of relief. So I think that was part of the concern and why maybe they only sent one team, but also sending that money is something that can offer immediate help. So I guess that is what Canada is doing to help with this crisis. In a crisis of our own, there was, as we talked about yesterday, a bus crash into a school that killed two children. Sorry, a daycare center in Laval, Quebec. Two children were killed and several others were injured. I think two are now out of the hospital, with um, two more in favorable condition, and two more who are will hopefully be out and do not have life-threatening injuries. This is another sad story, and just like kind of a freak accident. The person who was driving the bus has been charged, I think, with one of the murders, first degree murder, as well as aggravated assault and assault causing bodily harm and attempted murder. So still don't really know the details about what happened. We know that the man who was driving the bus came out of the bus afterwards and started taking off his clothes and yelling. So there seemed to be some sort of psychological situation happening there. We don't really know the details of that. but I think, yeah, the important thing we can do is just, send condolences to the family and, take care of each other and take care of your loved ones, because like this is so scary, something that just I think we can all feel on a human level, especially when there's like little kids involved, and this was really just a senseless thing that didn't need to happen. So, um, moving to the uh health Canada health transfer, which has been making news a lot this week. Ontario and Alberta are poised to accept Ottawa's healthcare offer. This is kind of what we expected. However, they need all the provinces and territories to be on board before the deal can actually go through. So I think this is kind of like Doug Ford and Daniel Smith, basically like, hey, let's get it through. Let's get it through as quickly as possible, because I mean, it seems like the time for negotiation has passed, and the federal government is kind of holding all the cards. They're basically saying you can have $46.2 billion more dollars of funding, or you cannot have that money. So I guess kind of like no surprise here that I guess these conservative governments want to get that money as quickly as possible. Ford's concern here is just like, kind of stupid, but he says, where do we go beyond 10 years, 11, 12, and 13? Again, we can't move until we get an approval from all the premiers. We have a great group of premiers. It's like, okay, thanks, Doug. So, yeah, where do we go beyond years 10, 11, 12, 13? Hopefully we go way beyond having Doug Ford as the premier of Ontario. It'll be a sad era if Doug Ford is the leader for that long. So, obviously this is good news, but also a lot of people are saying that this is not going to change anything fundamentally in Canada. Trudeau's healthcare plan won't have big impact on Ottawa's bottom line, economists say. Now, you can kind of take what economists say with a grain of salt, although in this case, I think they don't really have a reason to be disingenuous, and I think it's kind of true from the vibes that I'm getting. But again, I'm not an economist. I just like reading the news. The multi-billion-dollar health proposal announced next week is much smaller than expected and won't throw federal finances off track, say economists who have reviewed the plan. So just to clarify, this is over 10 years, $196 billion, which includes $46.2 billion of new spending. So money that would not otherwise be part of the Canada health transfer. Now, if you consider like the situation in Canada, how our healthcare systems are in crisis, and that this money will get divided amongst all the provinces, it kind of does make you think, hey, that's really not that much money. And it's probably not going to go very far, like it sounds like a lot. $50 billion sounds like a lot of money. It would be a lot of money for any of us to have in our bank account. But when we're talking about the healthcare system for the entire country, it's not a lot of money. So my main concern is that this money is going to get pissed away by people like Doug Ford, who are more interested in privatization of public services, and basically spending more money than we have to by having two systems, and one system that is going to cost people a lot more. And the real issue, I think, behind all of this is labor. So if a lot of that labor from the public hospitals are going to move into the private sector, then we're going to end up tearing through whatever chunk of that $46.2 billion. We're going to end up tearing through that money a lot quicker than we need to. So this is something that I kind of missed. I think a lot of people missed. The Ohio officials, this is actually from February 5th, so quite old by breaking news standards, as it's the 10th of February today. But the train derailment in Ohio, it's quite a wild situation. People are calling it like a mini Chernobyl, something that we might not know the effects of for a long time. So this train was full of chlorine, I believe. Uh, so the NTSB said only 10 cars carrying hazardous materials derailed, and 5 of them were carrying vinyl chloride. So I guess previously they had said maybe 14. Vinyl chloride is used to make polyvinyl chloride, hard plastic resin in a variety of plastic products. So it can cause cancer in people exposed in the workplace to high concentrations for many years. However, there is no indication that any potential exposure that occurred after the derailment increases the risk of cancer. So what they are doing, the last I checked in on this story, is that they've evacuated, and they are trying to burn off this chloride, whatever, in a safe way, so that I guess it will just like sink into the earth and not contaminate this small town called East Palestine in Ohio. An odd name for a city in Ohio, you would think. Moving on to Twitter drama, I suppose. Pierre Poilievre here is sharing an article from the Toronto Sun saying that the overpaid CBC president has launched a full partisan campaign against me. And this is like, this is almost as stupid as the Hogwarts Legacy drama, in so much as it's probably not that important, and a distraction perhaps. And there is a opinion article here from Konrad Jakubuski, who, in my experience reading his opinion articles, he is quite conservative leaning, and he says here, why is the head of the CBC picking a fight with Pierre Poilievre? And I mean, if you've been following Pierre Poilievre at all, you know that he's the one constantly bashing the CBC. But at the same time, I kind of oddly agree with Conrad here, thinking that it's not really the CBC's place as the public broadcaster to pick this fight, or not even that they're picking the fight. I feel like Pierre Poilievre is picking the fight, but it's not really the CBC's place to engage with the fight. Like, they're kind of just feeding the beast, you know? And that's why, you know, look how Pierre Poilievre is like weaponizing this on social media, saying that he's the victim, he's the one under attack, even though that's not really the case. But he's, you know, now building a lot of basically building even more resentment towards the CBC. So all the CBC really said was that, you know, Pierre Poilievre has said time and time again that he wants to defund the CBC, and that he's kind of like a virtue signaling to his base and riling them up, but probably nothing will happen. So it's really kind of this like made up drama that is happening, which unfortunately has like real world consequences, because if you believe in CBC and believe in our public broadcaster, then this is probably not good, that Pierre Poilievre, who has a potential of being prime minister in our lifetime, is signaling his base in this way. Do I think he would actually defund the CBC? I actually don't think that. But hey, you never know. People are dumb, and conservatives are even dumber. This is something else people are talking about coming out of Abacus data. Now, I don't really believe in polling. It's not important. We shouldn't put all our faith in stuff like this. But it is kind of interesting to see that this is something that's coming out of the city of Toronto. Federal Liberals are well ahead in Toronto. So you can see in this poll, they are pretty much crushing it across. This is for committed voters. So you can see Old Toronto / East York is like really strongly liberal. Etobicoke, really strongly liberal as well. Basically everywhere, except I guess Scarborough here is the most conservative of these regions. Interesting to see that Old Toronto, East York also has like 23% split for the Conservatives and the NDP. You know, so they are perhaps the most, if you want to say progressive, I don't quite know the right word, left-leaning, quote unquote. You know, if you stack this NDP vote on top of the Liberal vote, that's quite a large chunk there of people left-leaning. Interesting to me also that Etobicoke could be so staunchly liberal. And like it's kind of is surprising that they don't look more like Old Toronto, East York. Admittedly I don't know enough about like Toronto demographics and stuff to give a more in-depth analysis, but you know, something interesting to take a look at. Interesting again, Scarborough being actually quite a conservative place. I wouldn't think that Scarborough is so conservative, but perhaps it is. So obviously, does this matter? Is there an election coming anytime soon? We don't know. Probably not. Some people are saying there might be one in 2023. Liberals and conservatives have both done a couple things that have made it look like they're campaigning, but we don't really know. Last story we're going to end on here is the Chinese spy balloon flew over Canada. Why didn't we shoot it down? So this is coming out of CBC. Stephanie Hogan, who interviewed some people from the military and asked the question, hey, this balloon was over Canada as well. How come we didn't shoot it down? Which is, I don't know, kind of weird. And this whole article does seem a bit like beating the drums of conflict. And you know, in my opinion, it's probably a good thing that Canada didn't shoot it down. The military personnel that they're interviewing here, I think it's Scott Clancy, said that they were playing some games with China and they didn't want China to know that they knew that the balloon was floating over Alaska and Canada and the US, and so they were just playing this three-dimensional chess over this balloon, which is ridiculous. I feel like at one point this article, it's almost like watching like Royal Canadian Air Farce, this article, because it seems like satire. At one point they ask this a retired general, or retired NORAD deputy commander, like how could Canada have shot it down if it wanted to? And then they're like, you know what? It doesn't even matter, because if we wanted to shoot it down and we couldn't, we could just ask the US to shoot it down for us. So, which was kind of like a long way of saying like Canada doesn't even have the ability to like pop a giant balloon if it was floating over our airspace, which is in itself, I don't like, is that good? Is that embarrassing? It's kind of feels like it's embarrassing, but maybe it's good that we don't have like this giant military air force that's capable of doing stuff like that. But we're also like so closely aligned with the US and NORAD, which is the NORAD, what is it? I forget what it stands for. North American Aerospace Defense Command. So I think this also felt like an article that was beating the drums and saying like, hey, you know what? We need to fund NORAD. We need to give more money to military spending. We need to make sure our airspaces are protected from Chinese balloons, I guess, being the major threat here. So Ribert 808 in chat saying that it's good. That we don't have a gigantic military like the US. Yeah, I can agree with that. It's not where I want to see our money going, but still, there is kind of a sense that we're gearing up for conflict with China, even if we're just spending money on our air defense. So thank you so much for joining us for the news for today, February 10th. 2023. I can't believe we're already a third of the way through February, probably more than that because it is the shortest, sometimes the cruelest month. So if you made it this far in the video, it would be really great. Tell me what your favorite story was down below in the comments, or give us a like, subscribe. We're almost at 200, and the only one stopping us from getting to 200 is you out there watching this video on YouTube. If you're here on Twitch, we're going to continue streaming and talk more about whatever's going on in the world. Probably just have some fun as well. So thanks for being here.